Thank you, sir.
All right. We are going to start out with Because We Love the Lord.
These stupid tapes aren't sticky. Well, the microphone's sticky, the tape is
Sing,
Sing
sing,
praises,
sing,
sing praises,
because we love the Lord. Bow, 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 because we love the Lord. Hands, 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 because we love the Lord. Sing, 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 because we love the Lord. All right, we're gonna sing every move I make.
Let's go, bro.
Let's keep it simple. Every move I make, I'm making you. You make me move, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. Every step I take in you. You are my way, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. In waves of mercy, waves of grace. Everywhere I look, I see your face. Your love has captured me. Oh my God, this love, how can it be? How can it be? Every move I make, I'm making you. You make me move, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. Every step I take in you. You are my way, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. Waves of mercy, waves of grace. Everywhere I look, I see your face. Your love has captured me. Oh my God, this love, how can it be? How can it be? Lord, lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way. From the earth to the cross, my debt to pay. From the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way. From the earth to the cross, my debt to pay. one request. What do you want to sing? Jesus, lover of my soul. Sing it. Jesus, lover of my soul. Jesus, I will never let you go. You've taken me from the miry clay. You set my feet upon a rock, and now I know I love you, I need you. Though my world may fall, you'll never let me go. My Savior, my closest friend, I will worship you until the very end. Worship you, my Lord, until the very end. Worship you, my Lord, until the very end. Jesus, lover of my soul. Jesus, I will never let you go. You've taken me from the miry clay. You set my feet upon a rock, and now I know I love you, I need you. Though my world may fall, you'll never let me go. My Savior, my closest friend, I will worship you until the very end. Worship you, my Lord, until the very end. Worship you, my Lord, until the very end. Man, if you'll be seated.
Good afternoon. I am your, announcement lady for today, substituting in for Allison. But I got some really cool announcements for you, a couple of prayer requests. Wanted to give you guys an update on Jenny Richards. She's been moved to Madison Health and Rehabilitation. She'll be there for approximately 10 days. She should have a cell phone by Thursday, and there are no phones in the room. So please keep praying for her, praying for the people helping her with medical needs, family, and thank God for the friends that are already helping her. We appreciate you guys so much. Taylor Bronson got into the Pat Thomas Law Enforcement Program. Congrats. So we are super proud of you and grateful for you and excited for you to keep achieving your goals. Thank you guys for praying for those two things. I'll switch back over to the announcements for Lost and Found. Today's last night to check to see if you have anything. If not, it's going to Goodwill. So even if you think you might not be that person, you might just want to take a peek, see if you left anything, because they will be being donated. Updates on the barn dance, their Facebook page to sign up at the 1200 Church website. Just to clarify, I know some people are like, oh, it's not on our website. So if you're looking for that link, once again, it's on our Facebook page, and you'll be able to get to it through the 1200 Church website. It's $28 per couple, $14 for individuals. There's a sign-up sheet in the front, I believe, as well. So just wanted to let you guys know that. As for the thank you dinner for the Koropanovs on Wednesday at 6, there's also a form in the foyer. If you're going, just let them know so they can have a holistic number of how much food they need to order for next Wednesday. As you guys know, Leslie's baby shower is coming up. Woo woo. So that'll be this Sunday. She's registered at babylist.com and Target. There's a sign up for food to bring in the foyer as well. So we got a lot of papers in the foyer. Just check it all out. Some more exciting things. As you guys know, we've been working through the theme of Dash, deep convictions, appreciating God. The S is for speaking the truth in love, and H is for helping others. We actually have some really cool wristbands in the back. I have one on right now. It's got our theme scripture for the year and just this year. So remember that dash in between is what really matters. So feel free to pick them up. They're free. They're green and black. You can wear them just to remind you throughout your week. And also, if we can have 2 or 3 strong fellas that are free tomorrow night around 6, Rick needs some help with getting a heavy file cabinet. It's like a fireproof file cabinet, but it's really heavy. So he said if you need a ride, he can provide a ride, but if you can meet him, that'd be awesome tomorrow at 6. You can either talk to him or Tab about the details for that one. Got a couple more. Stay strong. I see why Tab makes so many jokes. Keeps you guys engaged. Anyways, Financial Peace University starts next week, February 13th. So if you haven't paid Terry yet, please make sure to pay tonight. Because that will be starting, and it's just to continue to help us grow and just using our money to glorify God. So it's pretty exciting just to continue to reign in that area that I know Satan uses a lot to discourage us sometimes. And exciting news, we are officially live on Facebook. So just keep that in mind as you're here, you're fellowshipping. There's people from all over watching. Just keep that in mind in your interactions with one another and knowing that you got people all over the world that are also worshiping alongside us and growing with God and each other via Facebook and Vimeo. And last announcement, I know some people were wondering about the Go Ruck workouts. We were doing that Saturday mornings to get fit and fellowship with one another. If that's something you're still interested in, that's going to start back up soon. So just keep an ear out. If you want to do Go Ruck again, they're going to be having the Saturday morning workouts again. So thank you guys for your patience. Those are all the announcements. Now, birthdays. Any birthdays?
Oh, can I have one?
Just kidding. Dan.
Yeah, we got a large group of people are going to the Samaritan's Purse thing this
Okay.
weekend.
In Port St. Joe?
Port St. Joe. Those papers are in the back if you want to grab them.
Okay. As there's so many amazing things in the foyer, so go to the foyer, and there is a serving opportunity in Port St. Joe for this Saturday. So if you're interested and you're available and kind of want to help out and get some more information, that's in the foyer. And you can talk to Dan if you have any more questions. Or Pam Mueller. So, sweet. Thanks, Dan. Any other announcements that I may have missed? Okay, no. Any birthdays this week? Birthdays. Ha-ha. Yeah. And Nathaniel, technically. So yes, sir, what is your name and how old are you?
I'm 28 years old.
And you, sir? I'm just for, the other people in the audience.
It's Nathaniel. I'm going to be 22.
Woo! Alrighty, so we're going to do happy birthday to Mitchell and Nathaniel. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mitchell and Nathaniel. Happy birthday to you. Woo! Happy birthday, guys. All right, any anniversaries? Alrighty. Woo, woo! It's Gabe's too. Can you say your name and how many years it's been? 15. Woo! All righty. So we will do happy anniversary to Matt and Sarah. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, Matt and Sarah. Happy anniversary to you. Ah, so sweet. Awesome. Congrats, guys. All right, so we're going to break up right now. We'll have one group for tonight for the service, and kids can go off to classes, and then we'll come back together. All right.
Am I live? I'm live. You can hear me? If you can hear the sound of my voice, sit down and be quiet. Kidding. Kidding. Obviously, maybe I'm not because people are still talking. Maybe not. Am I joking? Am I not? I don't know. It's hard to tell. Yeah. So here's one thing you're going to need tonight is something to write on. I don't care if it's your phone. It can be your phone. Phone is allowed. Tablet, totally allowed. Pen and paper if you are like old school or like a hipster. You want to go retro with that. Typewriter, fine. Papyrus. Scrolls. Hey, look at this too, man. I can watch myself while I preach. Is that awesome or what? There's a delay. Is that in case I say, like, bad words? Okay. And I see that my wife is watching. It says Sean and Lynette are watching. So hi to Sean and Lynette. If you guys want to comment, we'll interact with you guys. Give me a thumbs up. And Carrie and Jason Woodman are on there. So if you guys give me a thumbs up, everybody say hi to them. Hi. There we go. I don't think they're really watching. I think Facebook is lying. Facebook, it's fake news. Fake news. We're going to leave it. Oh, wait, Sean just gave me a smiley face with some sunglasses. There you go. Andrew Stevenson is now watching. Hey, wait, he's here. Yeah, that's it. So real quick, I appreciate the prayers. I did not actually have a procedure the other day. And, talk about a week of emotional ups and downs. It was a last-minute opportunity to have this procedure done, and I got over the fear of having it done, and I was kind of amped to have it done Tuesday morning, and they get a call, and the doctor's like, yeah, we're not doing it. We're bumping you out 3 weeks. And I'm like, shoot. And I get a bad attitude, and obviously my wife, and Justin Johnson is now watching. My wife, my wife talks to me, and she's like, Kevin, if there's anybody you want well-rested before they work on your heart, it's your cardiologist. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. I want him to go on vacation before he does weird things to my heart. So, it's all a matter of attitude, and this week has been a good one. So I appreciate the prayers, and it's going to be rescheduled to the 26th, so I'll need your prayers then as well. And there we go. There's that. I do want to, let me see. The person I want to talk to is not in here. It's Austin, yes. Is Tyler in here? There he is. Hey, man, huge thanks to this guy. He is, Tyler has navigated the medical field for me. He does this every day. And, dude, I'm telling you, a true brother in Christ steps up and has hooked me up with a new doctor and taken care of me. So amen to that. I appreciate you, brother. I was trying to get him to be in the operating room with me, but apparently there's nudity during this operation, and he did not want to be. He did not want to. He did not want to be part of that. Probably a wise choice. You're with me in spirit. I appreciate that. Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Oh, Allison's watching too. That means Chris is probably there, and Carrie and Jason. Say hey to everybody. So there we go. And Chris is watching. Chris had surgery today too. Did anybody know that? Yeah. We knew he was having surgery. I didn't realize it was happening today. He had his knee operated on, and he is Austin. He's good? All right. There we go, man. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about the A, which this ties off when we're doing these, our Sunday classes are going to build into our Wednesday classes. So our Sunday sermons are going to flow naturally into a Wednesday topic. So it's going to be kind of spiritual teaching on Sundays, and then Wednesdays are going to be more practical. So one thing I did a sermon a couple weeks ago on appreciating God. So tonight's our practical application of it. I did not at any point in my sermon mention that I was doing the A in the dash. So it was the A in dash, and we're going to talk about appreciation. We're going to talk about appreciating God, and You know, in doing that, I think we got to go back and take an honest look at ourselves. Bless you. Truly, truly bless you. The allergy season is with us. I think we need to take a truly honest look at ourselves in order to appreciate. Because I think a lot of times what I've done in my life is I'm like, oh, I need to be more grateful. I need to be more thankful. I need to give appreciation to people. And I go out and I do it, but the habit doesn't stick, and I ease out of it. And what I'm learning more and more from reading in the Bible is that appreciation is the overflow of a true understanding of what God did for us. Does that make sense? So that's kind of what we want to focus on. And I'm reading a great book now. I will recommend this. Has anyone ever heard of this guy, David Goggins? Yes. Yes. If you've read this book, that's the response you're going to have. So here's why I want to give you a warning up front. He is not a Christian. He is not claiming to be a Christian. This is not a Christian writing. There is probably you've read this? Have you heard of him? Have you heard him speak? He is fluent in the F word. He can conjugate it a bunch of different ways. He uses a noun. I mean, don't read this if you have a weak conscience with that, if it affects you, anything else. But if you want a book that will make you examine your life in an honest manner, this is a great book for it. I've been reading it, and unfortunately the clients I work with have been bearing the brunt of this. Because I'm reading it, I go up and I see clients during the day, and I'm fired up about honesty and radical accountability. And anyway, so great book. It's called Can't Hurt Me. This guy's David Goggins, and he's apparently considered the toughest man in the world. He went from a 300-pound slob who was working as a pest control guy to, within a year, qualifying for the Navy SEALs and passing Hell Week, and he actually completed it 3 times. And then he went on to do a whole bunch of other things. Now he's an ultra athlete, an ultra marathoner, which means he runs 100 plus miles at a time, just for fun. And so that kind of tunes you into who this guy is. But he walks you through radical honesty and radical accountability to yourself, and overcoming some of the fears that are in your own mind. And you'll have that reaction to this book. If once you encounter this, that's the reaction you have. Powerful, powerful book. But I want to go back to this, kind of hearkening back to when we talked about Romans, and we tried to walk through it step by step. And I think it's important that we're wise consumers of the Bible, especially in this passage that we're about to explore, Romans 1. And I'm going to try something that I don't do very often, so please bear with me. I'm using the electronic version of the Bible. And we'll see what a great idea this is in about 2 seconds. Okay, so there we go. But I want us to take a look at this not as a collection of snippets and individual scriptures, although those are going to stick out to us, but understanding this as in context of what the author was writing to the Roman church. And I think it's really important. Romans 1, if you're reading, we're going to go here to about we're going to go to verse 21. And in the verses before this, he lays out his argument, and he says basically all of creation lays bare the fact that there is one God, and he is the creator and master of all. And we take that to the bank. That's the truth. And then in verse 21, he kind of goes off and he explains why humanity has kind of strayed from God. And he goes into these things. He says, basically, for although they knew God, they understood that there was God, they didn't glorify him as God, and they didn't give thanks to him. And this led to their thinking becoming futile, their hearts being darkened, and although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. And they exchanged the glory of a mortal God for images being made to look like a mortal human being, and birds and animals and reptiles. And while we mock that, I think we covered this a little bit, we would never bow down to an image of a lizard, obviously, right? A little gecko or something. We would never gather around that and worship. Although, I take that back. When I lived in the Bay Area of California, they actually had a lawsuit against the city because there was a flower box concrete planter that the city was trying to move, but a group of people had formed a religion around this planter that they worshiped. And moving it was actually moving their place of worship, and the city had a lawsuit against it. And you're probably like, there's no way that's true. It's true. So I think in times we do become depraved in our thinking. We start worshiping created things. And I don't think anyone in here would be starting to worship, parking meters or parking dividers. But it's not outside the realm of possibility. But he goes on here and he talks about we're exchanging the truth about God for images of created things. We exchange the creator for the created. And I think for us to truly understand appreciation and appreciate God and who he is, we have to look at our lives and understand in what way am I giving up God? I may know of him, but in what way am I ignoring his majesty as God, as creator of the universe, as the ruler of the universe, as the one who defines right and wrong? And that's an important concept. God is not just the creator, he made the rules too. And he made them good in his time. And they are good in the fact that he decides what's right and wrong. Because I think we covered this a little bit on Sunday too, is when humans decide what's right and wrong, A, it's changing all the time. And B, we don't do a very good job with that, do we? And I'll ask you right now, really, for each one of us in here, if I asked you what behaviors you think are right or wrong, we'd probably all, even though we're united in Christ, we'd probably all have different things that we think are right and different things we think are wrong. You think that's true? I think it probably is. So I think that's critical for us to assess this in the context of the scripture we're reading. We've got to assess our current level of appreciation. Otherwise, what's it talk about here? It talks about them neglecting God. Neglecting God. This is a pretty powerful charge. I've worked with neglected kids before, and they say actually in all the child abuse literature that's out there, a lot of the research, we know about physical abuse, and there's always those after-school stories about the kid shows up with a bruise on his eye, right? And maybe some of us actually suffered physical abuse as a kid, and you know the marks that it can cause. And then we know about sexual abuse, and we know there's a lot of media around that right now and the bad effects of it and how it can last a lifetime and everything else. But what they've actually shown is if you really want to damage a child, and hopefully nobody in here does, this is not a how-to. Like, you don't want to do this. But if you really want to do, according to all the research we know, if you want to damage a child, you neglect them. It's the most damaging, the most powerful, and the most long-lasting way to hurt somebody. They say emotional neglect is probably one of the most insidious forms of child abuse that we're not dealing with. And you think about it, you may have experienced this growing up. You may have experienced this as a teenager or as an adult, or you may be experiencing it in relationships now, and you understand, like, neglect is a powerful, powerful way to hurt somebody. And we see this, and we're all get a little teary-eyed over thinking about the other stuff, but what the Bible's saying is when we lose appreciation for God, we're neglecting him. And you think about that, it's a powerful way not just to hurt God's feelings, although I think it does. It's a powerful way to destroy a relationship. I work with people as adults who've been neglected, and you know what? Their relationship with their parents is never the same. A lot of times it turns toxic, or it's irreparable, or it's so distant that there's no desire to foster it. And the same thing can happen with our relationship with God when we lose appreciation for who he is as creator. So I think it's important, in verse 25 it talks about the basic truths about God. And let me just throw it out there. What are the basic truths about God? What is it, the stuff that we, according to the scripture, what is it that we forget? I've given a couple of them, like that he is the creator and ruler of all. Like a lot of times we think like, oh, the president, Congress, House of Representatives, all these different things, the new governor there. No. God is the ruler of all. That is a truth about God that comes through his word. What else? What's another truth as you guys understand it? That he's holy, that he's set apart, that there is a God and we're not him. Okay, what else do we know? What's a truth about God? He is the embodiment of love. Okay, what else do we know about him? He is faithful. There's nothing in him that is not faithful. He's just. Yeah, he's fair and just, and it happens. Patient. That's one I think we're all very thankful for. But it's true. He's patient. You look at these characteristics and do you go through your day every day remembering these things? I'll tell you, when I started getting discouraged this week about the procedure I was going to have, I know we'd been praying about it and asking prayers about it, and Sean's even saying, she's like, Kevin, I prayed that everything's going to work out. But in my mind, when things go wrong, I instantly forget that God's in control of things, and he's working, and he's patient, and he's just, and he wants what's best for me. And I turn to the idol of my desires. Right? I want it now. I want to feel better because I have something to train for, and I need to get on this. And I give up God. I neglect my relationship with God, according to the writings here. That's powerful. In an instant, it happens. It's a powerful thing. We give up the basic truths about God. So I think it's important for us to look at, where has idolatry crept into my life? Because here's another truth, just knowing that we're humans. And from the moment that we ate of the fruit in the garden, we tried to make our own rules for what's right and wrong. And we haven't done a very good job. And in my mind, I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And in my mind, there are times where I neglect my relationship with God. Where is it that I have become an idolater? And it's easy, that there's the low-hanging fruit of, money, job, status. But I think it's deeper than that, because if you look at what he condemns in this scripture, he goes from idolatry to a depraved mind, and he's reading, if you look at the words he uses, it basically goes, because of this. Then the next paragraph starts with furthermore, which is a continuation of a thought and a logical argument. I skipped one down. He says basically therefore, and then because of this, and then furthermore. So he's building a logical argument of this leads to this, leads to this. Your neglect of God leads to a recreation of the truth, which leads to you thinking you're smart, which leads to you acting in ways that God doesn't want you to act, which leads to a mindset of this. So it's all related to idolatry in a way. And he's talking about this: wickedness, evil, greed, depravity, envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice, gossip, slandering, God-haters, insolence, arrogance, boastfulness, and disobedient to parents. Oh, the kids aren't in here. I always like to throw that one in. Right up there with all these other things. But you look at that, they're forms of idolatry because we become God, or the created becomes God when these things. And I think it's different for everybody. I don't know your walk or your journey or what you've been through, but God does, and you do. And when you put your life up against these scriptures, you can see, hey, this is where idolatry has crept into my life. This is where I've become wise in my own mind. And it's a scary thing to do. I've been doing it as I read this. And you know what? It turns into cheap Christianity. Cheap Christianity has no cost to us. Cheap Christianity is false sacrifices to a false God. It's idolatry. And I think it's time that we hold ourselves up to that. And gratitude, really, we're going to get to gratitude and appreciation. Don't get me wrong. We're getting there. But I think in order to do that, we've got to look at, where am I neglecting it? Because I've got to understand where I'm neglecting God, where I'm neglecting my relationship with God, to understand what I'm not paying attention to. It helps me get a richer understanding of why I should appreciate what God's done in my life. It's one of those things, have you ever lost somebody close to you? Whether an end of a relationship that's just destroyed, or in my case, I've done something stupid and ended a relationship, or where you've lost somebody to death, yeah. But a relationship ends, and you know what? One of the things I hear more often than not from people when we're dealing with them on the other side of a relationship is what they miss about that person. And it's always these little things. It's so funny. You miss. I miss the way that when I was having a rough day, they'd make a little joke, or I miss the way that, when it was this kind of day that we do this together. It's all these little things. It's all these little things that really aren't significant until that person's not there anymore. And then all of a sudden, it's like all that appreciation that we kept buried in our hearts and our minds and our words. That's what makes grief so difficult a lot of times, especially in complicated relationships, or traumatic or troubled relationships, because when that relationship isn't there anymore, all those feelings have nowhere to go. And We don't have anyone to talk to about them, and we can't express them. And it's like all that goodness that was in us is wasted. We don't have a way to express it, and it causes a lot of distress. And if you've ever felt this, if you've never felt this, amen. Enjoy. Treat your relationships good. But if you're like the 99.9% of the rest of us in this room that have gone through this, you understand what I'm talking about. So I think it's for us to understand all those things that are in our heart that we're not saying, we're not attending to, we're not paying attention to in relation to other people, in relation to God. I want you to think about this. Who in here truly believes that God has worked in their life? Okay, amen. So does anybody want to share, hey, you know what, I know for sure in this area God worked in my life. Anybody have a great story that they're willing to just put you on the spot and share it? There you go.
I used to pray every day about a car, and I prayed for like several months about getting a car because I really needed a car. And then one day, my neighbor, who's known me since I was a kid and has essentially been like a father to me, he was like, hey, so I'm getting rid of this car. Do you want it for like free? And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, all right. And at first I was like, I don't know if this is true or not, I don't know.
He's tricking me.
And he's like, no, here's the car, have fun, here you go, it's free, good job, go.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm like, okay, all right, so.
Super encouraging. You know, it's one of those things where you think, anybody else?
Excuse me. I spent years before I came back to Tallahassee to become a nurse, pursuing another career dream, doing everything I thought, I needed to do that I felt God was leading me to do, but it just felt like one dead end after another for years, and frustration, and then coming back to pursue a different path. I finally got a chance to realize in school how everything I had been doing all those years was built up to that moment, and how if I had not done the things that I felt led to do, things would have been very different. And then seeing where I am now, as opposed to where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you give yourself, you see how God's worked over time, even though it doesn't feel like it in the moment. Who else? I had like 4 people shot their hands up back there, and now everyone's like, nope, I'm not following that. There you go. We'll come back.
I applied for my grad program, and I applied for a semester, and they said your grades aren't good enough, and we don't have enough spots. And then I tried to get in somewhere else, and they called me back, and they said, hey, actually, we can get you in a semester early, and we just had these requirements change, and suddenly your classes count, and your grades are okay, and we need more people. Can you be here next month? And I was like, okay, because I had no idea what else I was going to do. And I've been praying about it, and God was like, all right, here's an open door.
It's awesome. Yeah.
For me, a lifestyle of drunkenness and promiscuity from basically high school through college and shortly after.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you were praying for?
No.
All right, well, I think God granted that. To get rid of that. Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying. All right. This is sleep deprivation's getting to you, man. That's what it is. So, it's amazing, and here's why I bring that up, is because you know what? In order to have true gratitude towards God, we've got to ask ourselves some tough questions. And then we're going to get into some practical exercises, but here's the tough questions. I need you to be honest with yourself, because I'll share how I'm honest with myself. When I hear stories like this, there's part of me that's like, so what? I mean, that could be total chance. You know what I mean? And yeah, you went through some stuff in life, but that happened. It all turned out good for you. It didn't turn out good for me in some ways. Or, I hear this stuff, and if I don't have faith and I don't believe that God is working, it's really easy to chalk things up to coincidence, huh? Anyone else ever do that? Where you're like, man, you hear like Mello, and he's like, man, it's a car. And I'm like, dude, so what? It's a car. I'm like, give you a free one. I'm like, probably wasn't that good. Who says God's answering that question? I'm putting myself out there, but it's like, here's the thing. These are thoughts we all have. And the question it really begs is, in my heart, do I really believe in God? Because I can't appreciate somebody I don't believe in. And that's the tough truth with appreciation, is it makes me go back to that core question of, do I believe in God? That's a hard question to ask. And more so, say I believe. Do I really believe God works in people's lives? Because I think there's a lot of Christians out there that believes God's working, but man, he's not a detail guy. He's more big picture. Creation, fall, salvation. He's got it handled. But the detail stuff, that's not him. But that's not what the Bible tells us. So it goes back to the tough questions we have to ask ourselves. Do I really believe in God? And when doubt comes in, when I start having cynical thoughts and stuff like that, I need to go back and check myself. Be like, you know what? I can't appreciate someone I don't believe in. And there's an honesty. There's a radical honesty. It needs to be like, you know what? I need to look at my faith because I can't manufacture faith. I can't manufacture appreciation. I can't manufacture gratitude. I can't manufacture all these things. I have to believe. And when I made up my mind to believe that God is living and active through His Word and His Spirit and in my life, that He has a concern for me, then all of a sudden the appreciation starts to bubble. It's like that machine gets going, And I start saying, you know what? God is gracious. He is just. He is patient. He is kind. And He's all those things to me. And He's all those things to each and every person in here. And that's the practical side of it. But we've got to get through that tough question of, do I really believe there's a God? And if I do believe He's working this moment right now? So that leads us to this. What examples do we have of how to show gratitude? Because it's like, okay, I believe there's God. I believe He's working in my life, but that doesn't help me with appreciation. How do we show appreciation towards God? Anybody have an idea? And we have Christmas, so I guess that's pretty cool. It's like a birthday party. Okay. So I love people. I pay it forward. Yep. Obey His teachings.
Being thankful in prayer.
Thankful in prayer.
Remembering Him.
Remembering Him. Okay.
Being deep in your convictions.
Deep in your convictions.
Opening your Bible.
Opening your Bible. Well, yes.
Remaining steadfast even when it feels like He's not moving.
Right. Understanding that God's patient.
Be like Paul and tell a story.
Be like Paul, tell a story. And let it come out of the overflow. So these are all things. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to cut you guys off.
Praise.
Praise.
Your attitude.
Your attitude. I think these are all great things. We can go on and it's like, man, we're having all these great ideas. Are we doing these every day? Has this become part of our character? I would say this. If you want really something pretty encouraging to do, I've looked through some of the Old Testament, the New Testament, the different verses on gratitude and appreciation, and here's what I've found. It's fairly simple. There's two ways that people show gratitude towards God. And we've mentioned all of those two ways, just in different words. There's two ways people do it. And if you look all the way back to Cain and Abel, and kind of it looks like it's amazing to see, because even, that story didn't turn out very well for one of them. Actually, for both of them, it didn't turn out too well. But you look at it, it was almost something inherent in them that was like, I realize God gave this to me, and I want to give back. And then if you really want an encouraging Bible study one morning, that morning where your brain isn't working too well and the coffee hasn't kicked in yet or anything, just go read like the first chapter of Paul's epistles, of his letters, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. Read those. Read Timothy, Titus, Thessalonians, and just read the first chapter of those. First and last, if you really want extra credit. And soak up what he's saying in those. Do you realize that he starts off almost every letter he writes with paragraph after paragraph of praise and thanksgiving? So really we have two ways we show. Words and actions. Words and actions. And that looks different for everybody. For some people, it's singing. Some people, we sing praises to God. Music doesn't do a lot for me. I'm not a musical guy. Singing's probably not it. I like talking. I like listening. Bible study and prayer is a big thing for me. Talking to other people, sharing time. You look at this, we can dig into this for week after week after week, but let's keep it simple. What am I doing with my words, and what am I doing with my actions that show my appreciation towards God and other people? And I think one of the ways we appreciate God is we show thanksgiving for the people he's put us around. And if you want to do anything, so we'll step out of biblical teaching for a second, not really. But we'll go, one of the things I do in counseling when I'm working with clients is I focus a lot on building gratitude and building appreciation, because it's probably one of the most effective ways to combat anxiety and depression. And more research is coming out about this over the last probably 20, 30 years that shows it's up there with exercise and more effective than medication in reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety. So if you really want to do this, say you go back to question 1, do you believe in God? And you're like, no. And you're just like, hey, I want to feel better emotionally. This still works, because everything in the Bible works. It's great. So hopefully that if you don't believe, you will now believe when you see how good it works. But here's what we're going to do. There's a letter, Martin Seligman is a guy that I read a lot of. He's a psychologist, kind of the godfather of happiness. And he has an exercise he has people do called the gratitude letter. And we've talked about this. If you've been in my classes before where we've talked about it, you may have done it. But we're going to revisit this. And we're going to do a couple things. And hopefully you have your thing to write right now. So when we do these Wednesday nights, we always have that practical application part, right? And we get into groups. And if you're like me, like getting into groups, like whenever somebody up here is like, okay, get into groups with 3 or 4 people around you, I'm like, oh, gosh, like awkward. Man, no. I love y'all, but it's like, Wednesday night, I've been social all day. I just don't want to, Yeah. I love to talk. I do. But there's some, you know what it is? I think it's something traumatic from like middle and high school and grad school when you had to do group projects. Anyone do a group project? And you're just like, oh my goodness. I think that's what it is. But I do like to talk. And so I'm going to reframe that, and I'm going to appreciate the fact that we get to interact with each other. There we go. But here's what I want you to do. This is going to be intensely personal, so you can do it together with other people. But here's what I ask. If you are going to do this with somebody else, I want it to be somebody that you really know well, that you trust will give you some honest feedback. Okay? So this isn't partner up with a stranger. Yeah, Carlos right there. So you can do it on your own. But I want us to start step by step. So I want you to think about this. It doesn't have to be anybody in this room. It can be anybody in your life, preferably somebody you have access to. And here's step 1. I want you to write that person's name down right now. Somebody that you appreciate either for something they've done, what they mean to you, things they've done to you in the past that are great and appreciative. Just the guy that gave Mello a car, I don't know. Somebody that you appreciate deeply, and maybe you haven't shared with them that appreciation in a while. So that's the 2 criteria. So go ahead and write that name down. And we're going to stand here in awkward silence until everybody has written that name down. It's going to take a second. Maybe not. First name that pops into your head. If you're talking yourself out of that person, that's the person you need to write to, okay? If you're like, well, no, I don't know. I mean, write that name down right now. Trust me, I'm saving you copays, all right? Yeah. I'm saving you therapist visits years from now if you do this, all right? Yeah. All right. Everybody have that name? Everybody? Okay. Here's the next step, and I want you to at least start it right now, because we've got, it's 5 till. Chris said we could go till 15 after. We won't. He's not here. And if he's watching on that, he has no power. Kidding, Chris. Yeah. But here's the thing. You can stay doing this as long as you want. Here's the only thing I ask. If you really want to get the full flavor out of this, and hopefully this is, I'll explain a little bit why we're doing it. I want you to write a letter of some sort. You start with a bulleted list if you have to. But I want you to write something meaningful about why you're thankful for that person. What they mean to you, what they've done for you. All those things you'd say if that relationship had ended and you couldn't say them anymore. If you had to talk at their funeral. All those things, put them down now as much as you can. If you have to bullet it now, and then you know what? This is a Bible-approved, valid, quiet time activity in the morning, right? Certifiable, right? You guys ever think about that? Like, I don't know if this qualifies as a quiet time. Yeah, maybe I need to do something extra spiritual. No, this is an activity you can do. Thanksgiving for the people around us who've done things in our lives that we're appreciative of, building the bonds of fellowship. Do it. Get it at least fleshed out now. Just start typing as I'm talking. Here's the reason. It's amazing. I believe that every word in the Bible is God-breathed and inspired. So that leads me to believe this. There is a reason Paul included Thanksgiving at least once in almost every letter he wrote. I don't think it was just like, well, I have some extra papyrus and I don't want to be wasteful. You know, I really think there's a reason those words are in the Bible. And obviously, if you remember, we're going to not take the Bible in piecemeal. We're going to take it as it was read to the people who it was addressed to. And we understand, like, those words, they may not mean anything to me, that he thanks, you know, Phoebe and Chloe and the household of this and, you know, these people. But there's a reason it was included in that letter, and these are considered the Holy Scriptures. Because gratitude and appreciation is a powerful thing throughout time. And for us to take that lesson, that yes, it's good to verbally appreciate people, I think is a lesson we need to take from the Bible. Make sense? So here's where the science comes into it. Here's what they've done. He does one exercise. He actually does two exercises in one of the classes he teaches up at University of Pennsylvania. One of them is the gratitude letter exercise, right? And Leslie's rolling her eyes right now. She's like, oh, gratitude letter. That dumb positive psychology stuff. So yeah, he does this letter writing. And what they've actually studied this over and over again, and they have shown really probably one of the most powerful activities you can do. Here's the catch. You're going to write this letter, right? And you're going to finish it up. And then you're going to deliver this letter. If it's somebody you can meet face to face, you're going to meet it face to face and read it to them. And you guys are like, oh gosh, panic. God forbid we show affection to somebody that we care about. You know, I will absolutely torch somebody who disagrees with me on Facebook. But God forbid I am told to like share my appreciation with somebody I love. You think about how ridiculous that is. So here's the thing. You're going to share it. It's funny because it's true. Yeah. You're going to share it with that person. Ideally face to face. If it's somebody out of the country, somebody out of state, you're going to call them up and be like, hey, you got 5 minutes because I just want to read something to you. And then when you're done sobbing and that person's done crying and your relationship is better, what they've shown actually is they've taken like severely depressed people and done this exercise, and they've seen an increase in mood, like a sustainable increase in mood for days at a time. Not just for the person who wrote it and read it, but for the person who heard it. It's like a shot of Prozac happens. I mean, it's like the greatest thing in the world, and it lasts for days. And we're commanded to be thankful at all times. So it's amazing. God really kind of knew the recipe for what it takes to keep us happy. We should be giving thanks to people and receiving thanks from people and having encouraging relationships. And, you know, it's amazing. Here's the other thing he does, and this is interesting. And hopefully you guys are still writing and fleshing stuff out because I'm just killing time right now. He teaches a course on positive psychology that's absolutely booked every semester. Even people who aren't in the major will take this course. And it culminates in one exercise where you actually bring that person to class with you and you don't tell them why they're there. Right? And then in class, it's like our Thanksgiving service, but you're allowed to do however you want to show appreciation. Some people read poems, some people talk, some people sing a song, some people are goofy about it. But that's part of the class, is they show appreciation to the person they brought, who's totally blindsided by it. And he shares his course reviews that he gets. Instantly the single most popular course on campus, and has remained that way since the first time he did it. And some of the reviews that he had written in this were amazing. Some people were like, that single class where we did that changed my life. Gratitude is a powerful thing. That's why we see examples of it in the Bible. That's why we're commanded to be appreciative and give thanks in all situations. And that's why by doing this this anxiety-inducing exercise and sharing it with somebody is going to be the first step in us truly kind of learning how to practically apply appreciation in our lives. Because really, here's the thing. If we know it and we're not doing it, is it really doing anything for us? We've got to apply it. This is one of the powerful things. Any questions? I know I gave you like one practical, but you guys are smart. You guys can go, hey, words and actions. How do I put those in application? Go ahead.
One thing you said was, which I really appreciate you getting at the heart at, was like, man, if you don't even believe in God, like it's going to be really hard for you to appreciate someone you don't believe in.
Yeah.
So like for the person who has a hard time believing in God,
Yeah.
like where would you encourage them to start? I know you said putting the Bible into practice because it works.
It works.
But, you know, what are some other maybe basic things that you would encourage them to start with?
I think that that's a great question. So if somebody doesn't believe in God, where do they start with this? And I think the first thought I have go through my head is this. If somebody doesn't believe in God and they're willing to have the conversation with you about that, it shows one thing. It shows that there is a conflict in a seeker's heart, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think we fan that into flame by exploring what the resistance is, by reading through the Bible. That's where the Bible studies get in there. And that's why I think it's so important that we don't just go through, well, let's go through subsection 1 of the Bible. And you know, like we have a great outline and we should use it. But I think that's where the heart and the relationship come in. Understanding, hey, why don't you believe in God? Here's an interesting thing. It is amazing the number of reasons people don't believe in God. And the silliness of the reasons. I was working with somebody the other day who, by no means like a professional athlete, like not anything even close to resembling a professional athlete, but got injured and wasn't able to play that sport anymore, and that's the moment they knew God didn't exist because they wouldn't do that. And I'm like, wow. You know, from my standpoint, that's a really cheap reason. But let's dig through that and not just be offended and be like, you know what? That was a painful experience for them, and that was a time where their life changed, and they went from having meaningful, engaged activities to feeling alone and like, I have no purpose in my life. And man, so you feel abandoned by God. Well, let me show you the true nature of God. Let me tell you the stories like Kevin just shared with us of like, you know what, even though it was painful for 9 years, to God be the glory that my life is where at a greater place now than it would be ever. And sharing, that's where I think we all have our place. You know, maybe you don't have that story, maybe because you're young and you haven't had all these years of things. Maybe that's where somebody a little more seasoned like Doug Isabel has you know, somebody with a little gray on top can say, you know what, I understand why it feels like that, why I feel abandoned by God. But let me tell you how God's worked in my life. Let me tell you what I'm thankful for. And seeing the Bible and seeing a true faith and appreciation in action, that's where I would start. That's what I would say. Any other questions?
What was that professor's name?
Martin Seligman. Selig, S-E-L-I-G-M-A-N-N. Seligman. University of Pennsylvania. AuthenticHappiness.com, I think, is his website. It's great. There's actually, you want something fun to do and it's free, and you'll be one of his lab rats. If you go to his website, Authentic Happiness, if you just Google it, it'll come up to his website. You can take all these different research assessments that actually measure your level of gratitude, your level of forgiveness, your level of life satisfaction, your ability to, he has probably 20 different assessments on there that all correspond to this, and it's pretty impressive. You take them and it's kind of challenging. And then, you know, your data is used basically in some of his papers that he's making a lot of money off of, but yeah. Any other questions? So here's the thing, it's 5 after. Fellowship, talk, show appreciation. Don't let this time get wasted. Don't stand up and walk away. But that one practical we did tonight, if you let that go by without doing it, you're hurting yourself. I guarantee you in some way in the years to come, you will regret not sharing that information. So that's a challenge for tonight. Go ahead and do it. And I appreciate your attention. We're off the live stream. Do we want to say goodbye to everybody that's watching us? Bye, everybody. All right. Oh. Yeah, how funny would that be?